What skills and qualities are essential to be successful as a founder and entrepreneur?
You need to have a lot of determination and a lot of patience. You can't do it all by yourself. I haven't found anyone that's been successful who's done it all by themselves. You have to be open to new ideas, to other points of views, and you have to be able to work with other people. And if you can't get other people excited about what your idea is, they're not going to get excited and they're not going to want to join you on that.
So today I'm here with DiNenna, who is the co-founder of Nixon Watches. And today we're going to be doing a couple of things. First of all, talking about what it means and what it is to be a founder and entrepreneur. Secondly, the path that you took to get to where you are. And finally, just some advice for young adults who might want to pursue a similar career as you. So let's get into it. First of all, can you tell me about your job?
We started the brand 27 years ago, and my direct responsibilities day to day are overseeing customer service, the marketing direction, the brand strategy, and the creative team. But being a co-founder, you really are involved in everything, every part of the business, whether it's something you're interested in, something you like, or not. You're really involved in it.
So what is a typical day like as an entrepreneur/founder?
Every day is a little different, which is something that I really enjoy. I have my direct responsibilities with respect to marketing, branding, and customer service, but there's tons of things that come up every day, whether it's an HR issue, a legal issue, a finance, sales, product development, working with the international distributor, team riders, ambassadors of the brand. So each day you're getting thrown all kinds of different things.
So you didn't have a specific role at Nixon?
No, I started as the VP of marketing, but really when you go back to a business and you're starting it, in my case, there was two of us. There's a co-founder, Andy, and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's two of you, there's a lot of things that need to get job and someone's got to do it. So while I saw myself as a sales and marketing person and he saw himself as a business, finance, and product person, there's still a lot of things you got to take control of and you have to look at and address every day. Your day-to-day might be focused on how do you make the coolest brand and the funnest brand and what's the marketing and the design elements going that are going to feed into those elements to help tell those stories. But then you might have some issue with your business where there's a leak in the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who do people look at to fix a leak? They look at the person who's running the business usually, because everyone else has their specific roles. And when you're a co-founder, you have this overarching responsibility to the entire business.
Definitely keeping everything in check is important for sure.
Recognizing that you're probably not the best possible person at every different aspect that the company needs, but someone has to make a decision. And at the end of the day, they're going to look at the co-founders to make those decisions.
What do you like most about what you do?
What's really rewarding for me is building relationships with the other employees in the business, seeing people who have started maybe right out of college, who you can remember sitting down across from them, interviewing them for a role at the business. And 5-10 years later, they're still in the business. They've advanced in their career. They've had opportunities to travel, to learn new things, to collaborate with other people. It brings a lot of satisfaction when you see people around you that you've been working with and for quite a while who really enjoy what they're doing and they've excelled at what they're doing.
I mean, being a founder isn't like your typical job. So what exactly inspired you to pursue a career in entrepreneurship and founding Nixon?
To be honest, I was never looking to own my own brand. When I came out of media and I had exposure to so many cool and interesting brands in the world of action sports, it really made me think about, wow, if I had a brand, how would I do it? And how would I build it? And what would I want people to think of that brand? How would I want people to react when they saw the logo or the product or people who represent the brand? What I recognized was the only way I was going to be able to do it the way I wanted to do it was to actually start this thing. So it could be ours and we could do it the way we wanted to do it. instead of going to work for someone else where you're supporting their ideas and their point of view, and you're helping them to take their company to where they want it to go.
Yeah. You want to pursue what you want to do.
Yeah.
For sure. So when did you know this is what you wanted to do?
When I had done my homework on an idea that I thought would resonate with a lot more people, when I found someone who I respected, who had a comparable skill set, who didn't overlap very much with the things that I was interested or I was knowledgeable or experienced in, who shared the same passions that I shared for wanting to start a company in this industry focused on this type of product and doing it in the way that we wanted to do it.
I mean, and obviously it didn't happen overnight. So I want you to talk about a little bit about how the Nixon idea actually came up.
When I was in high school and then in college, I worked in surf, skate, and snowboard shop. You used to get extra pieces of neoprene when you buy a wetsuit, and they'd give those to you to...
Neoprene, what's that?
Neoprene's the material that a wetsuit is made out of. So where denim is what jeans are made out of, neoprene is what a wetsuit's made out of. They'd give you an extra piece of fabric, so because eventually you would get holes in the knees.
Yeah.
And you should use those extra pieces to patch the holes. I would rip all those extra pieces off the wetsuits, and I'd take them to the table, because usually at retail you have a lot of free time, and I'd cut them into strips, and I'd take the ends of them and I'd staple them together, and then I'd electric tape them, and essentially it was a neoprene watch band, and I'd put them in a bowl at the front of the shop, and I'd sell them as replacement watch bands, because customers were coming in often looking for a replacement watch band for their watch. You know, traditionally watches were sold in action sports stores starting off for surfing. But if you surf a lot in your watch, it's going to smell. It's going to get dirty, and it's going to have those things. And so people would come in and want to buy a new watch band. We were selling branded watch bands for $20. I figured I could make my own and sell them for $5 or $10. And that would give me some extra cash over the weekend. I did this in high school. I did this in college. And I really had an affinity for watches.
How young were you when you started that?
When I started that, I was 16, working in shops. And so from high school through college, when I was 21, 22, I continued to do it. And I really had an affinity for watches. And after I finished college, I graduated from college, and I did get my first job working in media in action sports. And it wasn't a very high-paying job, but it was at a time when the industry was really starting to take off. And I did really quite well for myself that first year. So much so that working in media, you were paid at the end of the year in a commission. So at the end of the year, I got a big check. I paid off my student loan. I threw a big party for all my friends, and I went out and bought myself my first nice watch.
What watch was that?
It was a Seiko at the time. And, you know, at 21, 22 years old, I was working with a lot of small, independent startup brands. I wasn't ready for my Rolex or my Omega experience. Those are the brands that I really had an affinity for. I didn't feel like I could walk into a meeting with an independent business owner with such an expensive watch on my wrist. I don't think they could appreciate where I was coming from.
It's very humble of you.
So I was out looking for a watch, and I found the quality and the style that I wanted, and I was excited about it. But what I realized was the watch brand wasn't very compelling. Like Seiko wasn't a brand that I looked for. They just made a really good product. And me, being a person coming from action sports, I had these special sunglasses and my special branded shoes and my branded clothes, but I didn't have a watch that reflected the brand that I wanted. And it was really from that first shopping experience that I realized, how come of all these companies that I've been visiting in the snowboard, skate, and surfboard world, nobody's making watches? Why? I started to do some homework on that. And as I started to travel and visit these other companies, the questions I started to ask had more meaning, and they had more influence on me because in the back of my mind, I was putting it through the filter of a watch brand.
Like you had that idea in the back of your head. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And so for, the first year and a half, traveling and learning and thinking about this idea, you start to realize the skills or the needs and the attributes that I had versus what I didn't have, what I didn't know. Those were things I needed to find. For example, I worked in advertising in action sports media. So I felt like I was well equipped to be someone who understood how to handle sales and marketing and branding. But I really didn't know anything about building a watch, running a company, or how to finance a startup brand like that. It wasn't until I ran into a mutual friend of mine and I shared this idea with him that he came back with an interest and a curiosity around my idea. And we naturally started talking about, well, how would you do this? And how would this happen? And, one conversation turns into two and two turns into more. And as he was going through his graduate school experience and I was going through my media experience, we continued to ask ourselves questions like, what would it be like if you were to start a brand? How would you run it? And what's your point of view on a particular issue or a need that we would need to create? And you start to learn about another person's point of view, what's important to them, how they look at the world and how they address issues. And we found a lot of similar but different strategies and ideas and philosophies that we could relate to each other on. And then I really felt like, wow, this isn't just an idea in my head. This is an idea that we're talking about and we're building, and I feel like we're a team. And that really then gave me the confidence as we were developing this idea and talking about it. There was a natural deadline. Andy was in his second year of business school at Stanford, and he was starting to question, what am I going to do when I get out of school? So he started asking more direct, more specific questions around my idea and how serious I was and how I thought I could accomplish my goals. And he flat out asked me, do you really want to do this? Because I want to do this. And if you want to do this, why don't we just do this together? That was really the first point where I realized, like, wow, I do really want to do this. Even though I have this fun job that allows me to travel around the world, snowboard and surf,
Gotta make sacrifices.
I just realized that this was something that was going to have more of a future for me. It was something I was extremely curious and interested in, and I really thought I could make a mark.
What skills and qualities are essential to be successful as a founder and entrepreneur?
You need to have a lot of determination and a lot of patience. You can't do it all by yourself. I haven't found anyone that's been successful who's done it all by themselves. You have to be open to new ideas, to other points of views, and you have to be able to work with other people. And if you can't get other people excited about what your idea is, they're not going to get excited and they're not going to want to join you on that.
What would you say the biggest challenge of being a founder and entrepreneur is, and when do you see those challenges come up more frequently? Like, what are people doing wrong? What have you done wrong?
One of the biggest challenges of being an entrepreneur is the idea that the buck stops with you. Sometimes it's a lot of fun decisions you get to make. Sometimes it's a lot of hard decisions. But those decisions, they have impacts on other people's lives. It's great when you can find someone who has a skill set a little bit different from you that you can learn from and they can learn from you and you can grow together. But not every person that you come to interact with will respond that way. And some people are still searching for what's important to them, and it might not be the company that you're at. So the idea that you have to make hard decisions that other people might not be happy with, that might bum people out, even to the point of letting someone go and asking them to exit your company and no longer be there, those don't come easy. Those pull at your heart a lot more. And I think those are the things that they don't really tell you too much in business school. They're busy teaching you about the finer points of finance and decision-making and legal aspects of business. But they're not telling you that because of the amount of travel or the amount of work that's ahead of you, you might not be able to always be there for your family's birthdays or anniversaries or special moments with your close friends and family, because, you're trying to make your dreams come true. And some things you have to prioritize. And it can be hard on you when you don't get to always be there for your friends and celebrate those moments with your family.
Not something that you can be taught.
And your family has to recognize that, and they have to recognize that it can be a pretty personal journey and something that gets you so excited and so happy and brings you joy. There's a lot of heartache and headache that happens along the way. Sometimes those hard decisions that you have to make for your business, they come at a cost of friendships. They come at a cost of making people bummed and unhappy.
When we're talking about challenges, are there any specific challenges that you have faced that you can share?
The idea of even trying to have a partner that you can agree with on every step of the way, that doesn't really happen. Didn't happen in our experiences. So there's challenges all around you all the time. You have an employee who's going through a hardship, and it has nothing to do with work at all. And you want to be understanding and be there and supportive for them because they've done a lot for you and your business ideas. And it has nothing to do with the business, but you've created a friendship with someone and you want to be there for them. And, sometimes you just want to go to work and do the work and go home. And I think when you're a founder, some of those opportunities, some of those challenges are, they're not as easy as that.
You've been in the industry for a long time, especially with watches and action sports. Over the years, have there been any major changes in the watch industry or action sports industry?
Sure. I mean, we can go through the list. When we started our brand, the internet was just coming up. We were more focused on a wholesale distribution and not an online distribution. That wasn't something that was prevalent and was already as beneficial and as meaningful to the market as it is today.
How did you guys adapt to that?
It was important to us to be in the best surf, skate, and snow shops around the world. We focused on that. We felt that brands who couldn't sell there, who were selling online, they were selling online because they couldn't get into those core surf, skate, and snowboard shops. They didn't have the experience, they didn't have the right branding or the right product to be invited in to sell their product at those stores. But that was short-sighted. They had a product that people wanted, and they were going straight to the people through the internet. And those brands that got onto the internet earlier and were able to storytell their products and their brand and communicate what their brand was all about, that allowed people to, understand and learn about their brands at an early time. And that was something that we really weren't focused on. When we started our business, there was no Apple Watch. And when the Apple Watch came out in the watch industry, it really changed the landscape of watches, of how people interacted with their watch, of what functions they got out of their watch. I mean, for hundreds of years, there was one app on your watch, and it was the time app, right? And things have changed. And when Apple came out with a watch, in 3 short years, they became the largest watchmaker in the world. This is a 100-year-old industry, and a technology player comes out, and in 3 years, they're the largest watchmaker in the world. So for other brands who were selling watch product at a similar price point, it really slowed down. Consumers were focused on a smartwatch. Shops, stores, retailers wanted a smartwatch. They wanted a watch to do something more than just tell the time.
Were Nixon watches around that same price point?
They were, yes. And it was challenging because consumers wanted what was new and fresh, and Apple delivered that. It took quite a while for our brand to regain traction within the consumers to realize that, yes, like, watches are still important. And even though my watch might only have one app on it telling me the time, it's still an attribute that's really important to me and to them. And so the watch market has since grown and come back up. I mean, that was a huge one. And then again, for us, another big one, going through different stages of ownership. When we started our brand, we started out by friends and family, angel investors who were on board with our idea and our point of view and how we wanted to do it. But we've been part of a publicly traded Australian surfwear brand. We've been part of a private equity portfolio, and we've been part of a private individual family fund. We're still there. We're still running the brand, but we've had different stages of ownership, and that can be challenging.
So what would you say the best path for someone to take is if they are interested in becoming a founder or pursuing a career similar to yours?
I think something that was important to me that I like to share with people is the opportunity to go out and be open-minded and try to find opportunities where you can learn more about other businesses. When we're young and our parents tell us that we can be anything we want, an astronaut or a firefighter, a lawyer or a doctor, they're absolutely true. But there's so much out there in the world that we can do. How can you possibly figure out what's right or what's special for you for the rest of your life?
Mm-hmm.
That's the pressure that people have put on us in the past. What's your career? What are you going to do when you grow up? And going through the path of an entrepreneur wasn't a path that I laid out when I was younger and said, this is the path I want to go on. It was something I learned along the way. And what gave me the confidence and how I was able to learn that this is the right thing for me was having that ability to go out and spend time in so many other businesses, different products, different services, run by different people in different places. It showed me how people create, run, and grow their businesses in so many different ways. And I was able to take the pieces I liked and leave behind the pieces I didn't like.
So I know you talked a little bit about your time at Transworld, but I want to back you all the way up to high school and even a little bit before high school. Can you tell me about the path that you took to get to where you are?
Well, I mean, my path's not traditional, or maybe it is. I'm one of those kids that worked a lot of different jobs. Starting out at 13 years old, I had a paper out for 4 years. I worked at Baskin Robbins. I worked at Kmart. I was a server in a restaurant. I was a bartender, and I worked in the surf, skate, and snowboard jobs. So I appreciated that because I learned what it's like to work with lots of different types of people who want lots of different types of things. And that really started to teach me a little bit about the things that I like to do and the things I didn't like to do. And as I carried that through later in life, in high school and then in college, I continued to work in that surf shop. And it wasn't because I was the best surfer in the world, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in the water with my friends. I enjoyed the activity, getting better at it. And I realized I don't have to be a professional surfer to work in the surf industry. And it was my time at Transworld then that showed me there's so many different careers you can have in this industry. I suggest to people, whatever opportunities they have, to go visit companies, whether it's people you know or people you don't know, and even just dropping an email or a phone call in, or just walking right in the front door and trying to get your foot in and just meet someone there that can teach you a little bit about what they're all about.
What would you say your biggest piece of advice is to young adults who are passionate about being a founder, passionate about an idea, and passionate about pursuing a career similar to yours?
Try to find other people who've done similar things and listen to their story and learn about their journey, and take the things that you like that resonate with you, and then listen to those mistakes that they've made or the missteps that they've made, and try to learn from those and try not to make those same mistakes that they've made.
Well, thank you so much for coming and supporting our mission of getting free career advice for young adults all across the nation. And I hope that your story and your advice gets seen by millions of young adults like I know it can.
Shane, I appreciate it. I think what you're doing is great. I really wish I had something like this when I was that age, starting my career. And I'm happy to help and be here today.